Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm just back from a little one-night, two-day trip with my wife and my two kids in a place called Gapyeong. Okay, Gapyeong is a really beautiful country getaway in South Korea. It's not too far from Seoul, but it's far enough to get away, okay, from the stresses of life, or so I thought. Now in this video, I'm going to cover numerous occasions, at least 3 occasions during my little 2-day break there that I was completely and utterly frustrated, but also I was, kind of stressed out because I'm starting to feel like I'm the only one that sees this. Let me start off, number 1, with food, okay? I was at a buffet on Saturday lunchtime. It's a really, really famous spot for a buffet here in South Korea. It's not cheap, right? So you're paying enough money to get in there. You expect to be in a nice environment, with respect. And not too far from the table we were sitting at, there was a table with a mum and her 2 boys. And pretty much the whole time, these 2 boys were standing on the chairs, right? Now, I cannot help but be frustrated by that. Not only were they standing on the chairs, they were looking around and they were staring at people opposite them eating their food. And this couple that were opposite them, as they were being watched eating, they did not make eye contact with these 2 little boys. And I was thinking, all it takes is you to say, hey, please control your kids. And maybe that situation, resolves. But they never did it and the little boys kept doing it. And I was getting more and more agitated, right? So I'm starting to think to myself, Paul, is this your fault? Is this normal? Well, no, it's not normal. The mum would often go up and get some food and then come back. And her little boys were still standing on the chairs and she never addressed nothing. Do better, mum. Do better. All right, let's move on to the hotel. I paid for a pretty nice hotel. I think it's a 4-star, not too bad, right? Pretty big place to stay on Saturday night in Gapyeong. And this was a pretty big room. When I walked into this place, I noticed there was a big school bus outside the front door. And I was thinking, Paul, this is just your luck, dude. You have booked the room on the same night as a school trip. And lo and behold, I was right. I went downstairs to a little shop and it was like moths to a light bulb, folks. The games room was full of these middle school students. Now, I don't have a problem with middle school students. I don't have a problem with students at all. What I do have a problem with is noise in the room. Okay, so upon entering my room, there was footsteps above me, loud footsteps. There was laughter. There was talking. There was footsteps as well I could hear from the side of me. And I'm like, I can't handle this. I need to change rooms. I went through, my wife and my kids, they seemed to be oblivious to the whole situation. Okay, they were watching their iPads, but they weren't too bothered by this. So again, I'm thinking, Paul, are you losing your mind, dude? Should I just accept it, folks? Am I supposed to just go, okay, I've paid money for this hotel. It's really noisy, but you know what? It's okay. I don't think so. So I went downstairs to the front desk and I'm like, I can't stay in that room. It's too noisy. There's noise from upstairs. There's noise from next door. I want to change rooms. Now, the people were actually pretty good behind the desk, so they gave me a new room. They said, sorry, I was on my way. Went into my new room, a lot better, right? Not as much noise, not perfect. There was some noise, but nothing like it was before. So I was good, right? I was happy. Now, just before I was going to bed, about 11:55 p.m., I turned the TV off because I had some football on. And I started hearing these screams from young kids. It sounded like young kids. So I was thinking maybe it's the middle school students that were coming from the school trip, playing outside. I'm thinking it's a little bit too late, almost midnight. It's really dark outside. So I opened the balcony, put my head out, and I was pretty shocked because what I seen was 2 young boys, not the same young boys in the buffet. This time there was a mum and a dad with them. But the mum and the dad were spinning these little like night spinners into the air, and they would spin down like glowing purple. And every time they'd put it into the air, these little boys popped, right? Screaming and having a great time, which is cool. I got no problem with that, right? But number 1, it was very, very noisy. I've got a problem with that. And it's almost midnight. I've got a huge problem with that because my kids are sleeping, my wife's sleeping, and no doubt someone else is sleeping in the whole hotel. And I can hear them with the window closed. So if I can hear them, they can hear them. Now, I was really close to opening that window and shouting, Shikara! Now, Shikara in Korean basically means it's too bloody noisy. But I don't want to make little boys cry. Okay, I'm not the big bad green monster here. I'm not the Grinch at Christmas, right? So I'm trying to keep myself cool. And luckily, just before I was about to pick up the phone and call down to reception and say, can you please go outside and sort this out because I can hear it? They went away and I couldn't hear it anymore. But I'm thinking to myself, 11:55 p.m. and they're outside screaming the house down, the hotel down. Is this normal, people? Is this normal, or am I losing my mind? Because this is not normal, it's unacceptable, and this is bad parenting. Because what you're getting here is the parents, they're acting worse than the kids. They're encouraging this behavior, and when it's happening, they do nothing about it. They're not addressing the situation. So what's going to happen when their kids are adults? It's the same thing repeated, but it's probably going to be worse. So my kids are also in a situation in the restaurant where they're thinking, Daddy, why are those two little boys standing on the chair? Daddy, why is that mum not saying nothing to them? And I'm like, exactly. Right, so we get it. How do you feel about this, folks? Let me move on to something that's really, really important. The reason I'm venting about this is because something clicked at the weekend. I am a university professor here in South Korea. I teach undergraduate engineering students English conversation skill, right? Now, my students are between the ages of like 18 and 19 till about 24, 25 years old, depending on who I have. And about 90% of my students last semester said they are not interested in having children, right? They don't want to be a parent. No, I have 2 children, so I'm always talking about my kids and how they're well behaved and how they're mannerable and how I love being a father. And I asked my students, why don't you want to have kids? You know, it's a little bit sad because Korea has one of the, if not the lowest, one of the lowest birth rates in the whole world. And these students tell me, kids are a hassle, kids are a burden, kids are annoying, kids are noisy. Now, noisy, I understand what they're talking about. I didn't really click on it until recently. I'm only viewing it from having my kids who are really well behaved and well mannered. They're looking at the kids that I seen at the weekend, in the restaurants, in the hotels. But it's not the kids you need to be looking at, folks. It's the parents. The parents are the ones that bring them up. The parents are the ones that are responsible to teach them what's right and what's wrong. They can shape them into good people. But they're not. And so that's the question I have. Why are they not? Why is the new norm like this with no manner and no respect? What the hell? Another problem we have here is in Seoul, the capital of South Korea. Some restaurants and coffee shops in Seoul, believe it or not, they have a no children zone, a no kids zone. No, not a no smoking zone, not a no pet zone, a no children zone. How crazy is that? Now, before when I heard about this, I felt quite angry because I think it's discrimination. You know, I have kids. Why the hell can I not go in there, but you can with no kids? I don't think it's right, right? Kids are the future. But now I understand a little bit more, because if you're seeing this out of control behavior from children and parents just sitting back on their phones or just ignoring it or almost clapping this behavior like it's normal, why the hell would you want to be around that? Because I wouldn't. I would not. So a no kids zone in that situation makes perfect sense to me. And that's sad. Am I overreacting, folks? I mean, am I overreacting, or is this the new normal? Is it normal to have no manner and no consideration and don't care how others feel around your kids or around you? I don't think so. And I don't think we should ever lose our manner and our awareness and our empathy and our self-respect. I think that is key to who we are as people, and I think it's key to who our children are as people too, and how we shape them for the future. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.